What's the real reason Terence Crawford was stripped? Well, we know it's not a financial reason because Terence Crawford, no matter who he fights, is probably going to make at least $10 million. And the sanctioning fees for that would exceed anything that Jaron Boots Ennis is going to do in his next fight. So we know it wasn't because of that. But I think we need to back up. When negotiations fell through the first time, there were chess pieces being moved into place in case the fight happened and it didn't go the way that the other side of the street wanted to happen. And the other side of the street meaning Al Heyman, meaning Steven Espinosa, Tom Brown, you name it. So the first chess move was to elevate Keith Thurman, who has done absolutely nothing, in the number one slot. And essentially made the fight versus him and Mario Barrios an eliminator for the WBC. After he beats Mario Barrios, they then, a few months later, sanction the WBC at the convention, or petition the WBC at the convention, and have the WBC say, hey, you need to fight for the WBC belt next, pretty much, to Errol Spence. After that, you need to fight for the WBA, and the WBA was going to be the winner between Ortiz and Stanionis. Ortiz and Stanionis. It's early, and Ortiz is no longer at the division. He was killing himself literally to make the division, so it's just Stanionis. So Stanionis was right in line for the WBA. And then the final chess piece was to put Boots in the IBF. Boots actually left the WBO, right? The moment he decided to get an interim title with the IBF, he was pretty much out of the WBO. He knew that. So he wasn't in line to fight Terence Crawford. Now I know Manager Marty, and I don't like calling names because I want peace on my channel. I want education, all the rest of this stuff, but we cannot be flat ass lying. I'm watching a YSM video, and Manager Marty said that Terence Crawford refused to fight Boots. Well, Terence Crawford didn't have the IBF belt. It was Errol Spence. So you can't be an Errol Spence fan and a Boots fan and then not call it down the middle because you don't like Terence Crawford. That's a flat lie. The IBF, all these obligations with the WBC, the WBA, the IBF, these were Errol Spence obligations, not Terence Crawford. They became Terence Crawford obligations the moment he demolished Errol Spence. Right? So he adopted Errol Spence problems because he beat the stew out of Errol Spence. We got to get that correct. But Terence Crawford had his own obligations with the WBO because the WBO was right about to suggest or petition to fight with him and Alexis Rocha because the WBO pretty much is on an 18-month cycle. You know, you could fight a mandatory and then you need to be negotiating you can fight a voluntary, then you need to be negotiating with your mandatory after a certain period of time. So Terence Crawford had his own obligations. Now, if you look at this, there's three titles that are saying, well, three sanctioning bodies that are saying, you have to fight us next. You got the WBO, you got the WBC, you got the IBF. That's impossible. Terence Crawford would have to fight once a month after the Errol Spence fight to appease all those obligations. And then he would have to schedule something with the WBA immediately after that. So he would probably have to fight 5 times within a year. Well, 4 times to appease all those obligations. Because he's also contractually obligated to fight Errol Spence in an immediate rematch. Which means his next fight must be Errol Spence. So you have the rematch, the WBC, the IBF, and the WBO all wanting next. It is impossible. And that was the chess move. Checkmate. It was impossible. There's no way to please all those people. You don't fight Errol Spence, you can get sued. And that can be a problem. Right? The WBO likes Terence Crawford. So they kind of waited their turn. Rocha fought Centillion. Now it's a different person in that number one spot. Right? So it's not like Rocha's been waiting forever. He lost his spot. And Santillan has only been in that spot for about, a month now? But when you look at it, there was no way to please all those people. And I thought the WBC would jump out first. But they didn't. But at this point, he's also missed the WBA deadline as well. So there's just no way to do it. So he was going to be stripped. The pieces were put in place to strip Terence Crawford. And before I go, this brings me to Bozy. Bozy knew, and I've mentioned this on my page a long time ago. I got a video about Bozy. Bozy knew that they were going to receive a vacant belt. And if Bozy knew, Boots had to know that they were going to get a vacant belt because of the pieces that were put in place. There was no other option. These two guys weren't going to forego fighting each other to fight Boots. And the next probably more lucrative fight would have been Keith Thurman. And legacy-wise, because Keith Thurman actually is a former unified champion at the weight division who's only lost once to Manny Pacquiao. Even though I think Keith Thurman is absolutely terrible and over the hill. On paper, he's still a better win than Boots. He has a bigger name than Boots, and they would probably fight him before they would fight a Boots. We're not even talking about competition, because what we may think as fans, like, oh, this person, nobody can beat him. You gotta understand, some of these boxers, especially boxers like Terence Crawford and his camp, these guys watch film. These guys are confident in their training ability. They're confident in their coaching ability. They're confident in their fighting ability. They don't think that anybody could beat them until proven otherwise. The same way that Bozy is confident in his training ability, right, in his coaching ability, and Boots is confident in his fighting ability. He doesn't think anybody can beat them. So they're not looking at Boots like nobody can beat this guy. And not to mention, Terence Crawford offered Boots a fight by way of BOK Prime, a platform that he fought on. It's not like it's a platform that's just out there. He's already fought on them. He fought on the platform. He's already received money from the platform. Probably more money than he should have received given the opponent on the platform. The platform is real. The pay-per-view happened, Boots turned it down, or Bozy turned it down, because they were loyal to Showtime, which was rumored to be going out of business. Even at the time, it was rumored to be going out of business. And inevitably, it went out of business. And again, they knew they were going to receive a vacant belt. So if anybody's ducking and dodging, Manager Marty, it would have been that camp. And I'm sorry, those are the facts. I'm out.